Hello, my name is Tatiana Kolganova and I'm from Brunel University, London. Today we are going to have a look on importance of research impact and how research impact is generated and why do we need to pay attention to this. Also, we will have a look a little bit on how research impact is influenced on our research process. Our aim will be today is to understand the meaning of research impact, have a look what kinds of research impacts are, and how can we apply to our projects. What is research impact? What is impact? According to LSE Public Policy Group, research impact are recorded or otherwise auditable occasion of influence from academic research or another actor or organization. In other words, impact is something that could influence somebody else, influence your stakeholders. According to Research Councils of UK, impact a demonstrable contribution. And in order to define what your contribution is, you need to define the stakeholders and who potentially can use it. Now, let's have a look what type of research impact can be. When we consider an impact, it's something valuable contribution and it could be useful for someone. Considering this definition of impact, we can categorize them a number of cases. It could be academic impact, which will be useful for universities and academic society, as well as economic one, which will bring some usefulness to industry. Societal, conceptual, instrumental, capacity building impacts, all of them will have some stakeholders will define in this. So basically, in order to define what type of impact you have, very often you need to define who the stakeholders are of your research. If you know who the stakeholders of your research are, you will be able to define what type of impact your research can bring on. According to ICUK pathways, the impact can go through all sorts of different directions, from publication and engagement to networking, workshop or business, stakeholders, benefits, collaboration. Can you see that there are a lot of different ways to look on your work and translate in the way that it could be useful for society, for particular stakeholders and everything. Looking on pathways to impact, there are two pathways they can go together. One of them is academic impact, another one economic and societal impact. When we are looking at academic one, we'll be looking on worldwide academic achievements or enhancing some knowledge of economy or training some stakeholders or other researchers. At the same time, when we start to have a look on economic and social impacts, we will be looking on attracting, for example, R&D investment, improving health of well-being, or changing organizational structure and practice. It's very difficult to understand what is impact are. Shall we have a look through case studies and considering focus on impact? I will concentrate on case studies I know very well. It's actually case studies of my projects I've been doing previously in my research career. When I started to do my research in available hardware in 1997 about automatic generation of circuits, I didn't do it because of impact. I didn't do this because of research questions, because at the time I didn't know this exists. What I was looking with, I like it, I do it. The problem is, when I started to look what type of impact it could be, I was not being able to understand and demonstrate what impact this research could bring. So I was trying to have a look impact, and now in my understanding, the impact of research could be only economical. And this my error in terms of analyzing of my research. I was seeing my research is important only in terms of publishing of publications or using economical impact. I was not seeing how this work can be applied anywhere else. When I started to look from my work from completely different perspective what impact can be, I suddenly found out that some of the circuits we were evolving, it was 30% smaller than any existing 3-bit multipliers. apparently 3-bit multipliers can be used in quite a lot of computational circuits. And if we will implement 30% smaller circuits, which means it will bring us some economical benefits. In addition to this, obviously it will be faster because it will be the less number of elements and quicker calculations. In addition to this, when I started to look on my economical impact, I started to understand that I do have some scientific impact on this particular project. I have proposed bidirectional incremental evolution at the time, and I was very proud of this. This approach was helping us to get to evolution of logic circuits at completely new level. At the time, I didn't have a look that this could be an impact for other researchers and so on. So let's have a look what is evolvable hardware is. This is purely fundamental work, which was looking on new potential ways of generating the logic circuits, including logic synthesis, optimization, and routing automatically without any human intervention. At the time when we started to work, we'll be having some automatic routing or optimization or logic synthesis. There is no technology exist which will allow us to combine all. Although it was completely new, conceptually new technology, it didn't find any usefulness in terms of existing business market. Only later on, once you start to understand that impact could lay in different layers of stakeholders, you found out that the value of this system is not necessary in automatic design circuits, but you could call this system as pattern generation system, because if we'll start to have a look in existing pattern systems, there are a lot of logic circuits has been patented because they were smaller, more efficient, and more useful. As a result, it was bringing some economical advantage for them. Looking from this point of view, completely different angle of this research, this piece of fundamental research suddenly become important not only for doing research because of research, but it's become important for science as well as for some particular applications. How can you demonstrate your impacts on anything? One of the ways to do this is actually numerical citations, something that you would not be thinking it's important considering how many publications you published. But what is value comes when we start to look on research impact is how many times your particular work has been cited. For example, we have a few papers here, which has been published in this area by me and my team, but at the same time, what we can find out, how many times different people have cited this work. Looking at this, we can start to find out that there is importance of some of the papers that has been used fairly often. And this is where you start to have a look in scientific impact of this project, which will bring the value not only in a case of reduction of logic circuits or producing undiscoverable previously circuits, but also it will bring value to society where other people started to use and do knowledge transfer of algorithmic basis you developed previously. Another project which could be quite interesting to have a look is the project which we have done in 2002 is about a psychosocial model for evolution of aesthetic patterns. At the time, we were looking into behaviors of individual and social groups, and we were trying to think how can we perceive psychological values associated with colors. We've done a little bit of work on this, and quite for a while we were looking into this work as a nice piece of work which would produce quite nice outcome, but at the same time it will be very difficult to say what type of impact it could be. When we started to look closer to our project and now started to have a look, we started to understand that automatic creation of pieces of art can provide the positive emotions. Let's have a look. The impact can become. Would you believe that these images has been automatically generated by our system with provision on providing some psychological positive emotions? Surprisingly, when we started to show these images to some artists who are professional in working in this area and producing and drawing the pictures and anything, some of them started to compare our pictures with Van Gogh. This is something I would never be thinking that it could be very important for some artistic areas. So basically, once we start to demonstrate our work as not scientists, but we use it for potential people who may have a look and see what type of value are, we started to understand that we could even create the new type of domain of arts picture generation, which will be focused on positive emotions. This is something that you could discover once you start to look in the impact of your research which you are doing, but not necessarily when you are looking on solution of research question. Here is another cases of frosted glass and ice skating, which will be providing exactly the same positive feedback when you are looking on them. You would never think that all this has been designed basically on an automatic system, which will be automatically generated positive emotions and behavior among the social groups in terms of visualization. But so far, we were looking completely to different projects. In 2008, we were trying to experiment with some areas where we will be looking on the automatic backup system. At the time, you will be thinking, what else could be done in this area, and why do we need to look into this? And but we were finding that in order to synchronize, for example, two server files and anything, it does take some time. And especially with increase the sizes of files and increase the sizes of storage you have, it's necessary to look into some progress. Surprisingly, when we started to look in the market what exists, it was a lot of 5 different products that has been exist at the time. And when you start and look for them, would you be thinking at the beginning of a project, what impact can you do? At the end of completion of our system, what we found out that our system, which is shown in black and called Gypsy Sync, was constantly performing in most cases the best out of all. Can you see the letter F across this existing system? F, it means fail. But surprisingly, and this is something which we did not expect when we were working on this, we started to find that all existing systems on the market, they were working exceptionally well within one particular framework. But when we started to increase the quality of the quantity of information needed to back up, and we started to increase the complexity of tasks needed to be done, only a few, and actually only one backup for all at the time was performing very well. When we started to increase more, we found out that all systems have failed, considering that ours continue to perform. This is something that you may not discover when you're looking this, but at the same time, looking on this, you bring completely new angle into the market of automatic backup system. And in this particular case, you will be looking on some impacts which will be related not only for economical things, but to some ways of performance quality, where we'll be looking on development of a system which will be stable and the best performance and processing of large files of any complexity. And surprisingly, in comparison with systems which has been developed, the leading commercial applications were either failed or utilized 100% processor. At the time, you will not be thinking that there is a lot of impact in this, but when you start to look at an economical issue, we basically develop a product which can bring quite a lot of potentials for stakeholders who are using the servers on backing up, to ensure that there is a far better, more efficient way to back up large values of information. Another system which we are looking into is automatic and remote control monitoring robotic vehicle. Again, the motivation of this project came with some solutions to design the robot which will be remotely controlled and remotely communicated with someone else outside of the world. We were thinking about application for monitoring as a monitoring and communicator with elderly people in the rooms and in the houses to ensure that they have someone company to keep on. When you start to look from an impact point of view, this particular project has a social impact, which basically if it has been implemented as a product, will transform the life of elderly people, very often left alone in the houses, when everyone is away. So this system would be allowing them to find out and communicate with someone else via Skype, as well as monitoring if anything else happening with them. So there are two uses and purposes of this system. During this system, we have developed the robot, as well as design some of accessories coming on. But can you see that the scope of a project has been slightly changed once we started to think about the impact, started to think who the stakeholders of my project are? Another interesting project which started to look into this, it was in development and design of ambidextrous anthropomorphic robot hand. This project was started with some motivation that people with amputees, amputee people, very often suffering from phantom limb pain. When they suffer from phantom limb pain, this pain very often will be overcome if we will see the hand moving. Motivation was to design robot hand, which will be doing this. As a result, when we started to have a look into potential impact, we found out that it could be first social aspect of using robotic hand as one of a therapy rehabilitation for amputees, but at the same time we discovered that this type of hand could be used in some performances by artists, because it was having one unique feature which was allowing us to have one robot in two hands. It could be the right hand, the one which is holding the egg. At the same time, it could be the right one which will be holding the things. Because of this unique feature, artists were interested to have a look and explore further potential to use this one in some performances. Can you see sometimes when you start to work on the projects and develop them, some impacts occur based on the potential stakeholders you haven't considered this before? Also, some areas of research, which does what allows us to do is allows us to bring the number of citations fairly quickly. Here is, for example, today is 2016 and it hasn't finished yet. But these papers, for example, has been published in 2016. Considering our papers of uniqueness of some of the elements of our robot hand, we can see that some citations has been started to occur literally on the same year of publications of these things. Again, something that you will not be thinking that impact could be quite essential, but at the same time, the speed of occurring this could bring you of a different type of side into the project you are doing. This is quite an interesting project to look with. If all other projects we were looking on one particular problem, and very often we were not sure what type of stakeholders are and what impact of this research could be done, previously because we were maybe not experienced of this, but secondly because it's sometimes you discover stakeholders, potential stakeholders of your project only once the project has been completed or in some workable solution. In this particular project, we knew very well the impact on that it's happening on eruptions in Iceland in 2010, where 20 jet-powered commercial flights has been suffered damage. At the same time, it was estimated during the eruption in 2010, 1.7 billion has been lost in revenue because of the cancelled flights and everything. So it was the clear problem, which was basically leading to the eruption of volcanic volcan, and basically it was happening with the problem so that volcanic ash cannot be detected very easily when the plane is flying, and it's basically they will be safer to be grounded rather than basically to going through. Can you see here there is a clear economical impact as a result of our research? We have been designed a system which could be visualized and detect this, making this research one of the largest ones to look into, and this could be usable in the way. Considering the impact of this, we found out that our spread of the stations, considering the volcano eruptions, could be as far as 8,000 kilometers. It's basically we can consider and monitor any planes quite far away from volcanic eruptions to ensure that there is no any negative impact on them. At the same time, we are having 10 times more spread on distance and 4 times more number of ground cases. What is importantly, the outcome of this research was bringing us some commercial value, which was given 95% accuracy of prediction with. But what does it mean in the longer term? It means that potentially, if we'll be interested to implement this system, we will find out that the economical value of this has been significantly increased. This is type of project where it clearly shows that there is economical impact if this project is successful. We were looking on some ideas how to help the people and make their life easier. The problem is sometimes the people with phantom limb pain, when we are looking into this, and they have pain in the non-existent limb, we need sort of know where this limb is located in order to implement next framework which is possible to do. In this particular case, we were looking on real-time upper limb detection and tracking using webcam. When we started to look into this, we could obviously start to use more advanced technologies and everything in order to make our life easier in implementation of the system. But thinking about our stakeholders, can you see we started to think about stakeholders in our research? We were thinking about amputees who may not necessarily will be able to install the equipment very well around and be calibrated very well. We started to think of use of simple webcam which can be easily found in any of the homes nowadays. Using webcam, it makes our life more difficult, but it's become beneficial for our stakeholders. But this is the reason why this research has become more challenging than any similar project in this area. Result of this was very astonishing. When we started to implement the algorithm, we found some solutions which will bring us 100% accuracy in detection of amputation type and location of a stem in artificial light settings. You could really see, for example, how this system was working, where we will be having using webcam and we'll be defining the points of different type of joints, as well as we'll start to define what type of amputation is happening and how it's going on. The next project, which was started in 2011, was basically around the transportation network system and its optimization. This visualization, which you could see, this is a result of optimization of one of a network in its visualization. You could really see the sizes of this network is fairly large, and some of applications is quite very important. When you started to look at this, you would not be thinking that you will be able to design the system which will be actually working and providing this type of results. This project comes with quite surprisingly and very amazing work. Started with us working in 2011. We went through the roadmap of being runner-up for strategy demand competition and picking up number of prizes with our students around. Started to integrate our algorithm into actual decision-making system of Caterpillar and becoming getting the winners of Caterpillar Most Prestigious Innovation Award. What you could see, but most importantly, that our program codes, which we were developing, anything, become a showcase in release of Intel, which was bringing some additional impact to the society, which we haven't expected. The latest Annie Award, which Caterpillar has received in terms of implementation of a system, has been found out that it has some 50% reduction. This type of projects, which has initially purely scientific interest, become the most potential economic development, and it's bring quite a lot of economical impact. First of all, it's bring significant economic impact, as well as provide some social impact in terms of modification of existing business model while it was integration. At the same time, it was started to bring some educational level of impact, which was provided as a case study. It brings some knowledge transfer issues to some other industries which they potentially can use it, as well as environmental one. Can you see one project can spin out and have a number of impacts generated through the time? Can we have a look that at the moment we were looking at research process from generation of new questions, but when we start to have a look, what is the impact of your research project and what is going on, who are the stakeholders are, and what it could be done, your look and sight on this process will be slightly different, because when we'll start to generate research question, well, the first thing you will start to choose who is going to be for whom it's going to be useful, who will be the stakeholder of this project. Once you start to think about this, very surprisingly, your research question may be slightly modified and interesting. So now, for your research project, knowing that you learn everything about research impact and how research impact can be generated, and considering through a number of case studies, we have a look from fundamental case studies to clearly applied process. Can you define what potential impacts are for you? And finally, we have considered what research impact is. And we went through a number of case studies. We'll be demonstrating you that for research impact cannot necessarily can be generated from very beginning, but later on, once the system has been implemented. But what is most importantly, considering the case studies and learning from somebody else's example, would you be able to now generate your own impact in your own research? Good luck, and thank you for watching.